Is there something that you enjoyed in the FGC from a social or community perspective that people used to do that you wish people did more today?
You know, what we used to do is when someone pissed us off, we'd say, hey, we're going to go play Street Fighter 3 in the parking lot. And we weren't going to play Third Strike in the parking lot because this was before Street Fighter 3 came out. And meant I was going to fight you in the parking lot. I like this question. And I do not wish that people would fight more. Though it is funny, fighting game community has a reputation for being rather rough around the edges, but they don't actually throw down that much. There aren't that many fights in fighting games. There weren't that many fights back then, though it depends very heavily on the scene. There were some scenes with far more fighting than others. But the thing that I wish people actually did more was hang out. I like to say that fighting games, the games are an excuse for us to hang out with each other. We might think we're there for the game, but after enough years and after enough games, you realize that you're actually just there to hang out with a bunch of really cool people. Because the kind of person who's down to spend a weekend flying across the country or across the world to play a fighting game with another person or with many other people tends to be pretty cool for the most part. Like those kind of people are just willing to make decisions and prioritize things so they get to do that. And that's the kind of person I love hanging around with. The thing is that I don't know where this comes from. If it's because I'm old, and I see the new kids focused on competition and brand building and whatever. I feel like I see a lot of people talk about, I don't want to go to a tournament because it's a waste of time and money. I mean, you're there to hang out with your friends and make new ones, man. Like, what could be a better use of your time and money than that? To me, that attitude comes from a couple things. And one is, you get such high quality net play these days that you don't have to go to a tournament to get good matches. It used to be, because net play was generally really bad, that net play was it wasn't like a waste of time, but you weren't playing the real game. And it was kind of questionable how valuable net play was for a player's growth. I remember being a huge fan of like advocating for net play, even though I knew that playing in lag distorted the way the game worked, just because it was a really good way to get matches in, and you'd be able to carry some stuff from net play matches into offline matches. You just needed to also be playing offline so that you weren't only trying to do net play stuff. Once we got rollback and everything, thank you, Sajam, synced rollback, then it meant that you could get really good matches at home, and so you didn't have to go to events or locals or whatever to get good matches. So the value there was just basically how you did. And to me, that's kind of whack. That's kind of weak. Because to me, the value in playing fighting games is connecting with other people. If you don't play casuals at a tournament, then you have indeed wasted your time and your money. Like, the casuals to me were the best part of any tournament. Yeah, I remember some of my good tournament runs, but I remember the good casuals that I played with people and the friends that I made as a result far more fondly than I do getting a Frosty's medal or two. That's right, 2. And they make a real good clacking sound when you get more than one of them. Even back in the days, like the arcade days, it was funny to me because the arcade itself was not really a great social space until you made friends with people. And that usually didn't actually happen at the arcade because arcades are loud. And you're essentially picking fights, like minor money matches with a whole bunch of strangers at an arcade. So it's not easy to talk to each other. You're all there losing money to each other. So it's not like a great foundation for a relationship. It's kind of like if ranked queue was in person and ranked points could be exchanged for goods and services. It's not the best social environment. Also not a great place to learn how to play a game, but it's a really good place to test your understanding of the game because everyone's scrapping as hard as they can. If you really wanted to hang out back then, you'd have to go to like home sessions usually. That's where people had consoles set up. You were in someone's home, so there was a little bit more, I mean, obviously it was quieter, a little bit more private, but also there was a little bit of trust being extended to you that, you were allowed in someone's home. And that's where, usually you'd have multiple setups there, so there wouldn't be lines as long, and people would be kind of hanging out and really just swapping tips and talking. And it was the kind of situation where if you got killed by something, you didn't know how to deal with it, the other person could just pause the game, quit, go to training mode, be like, hey, here's this thing, I'm going to show you how to deal with it because I want you to deal with it so I can do the thing that beats the thing that beats this. And that kind of environment is really nice to learn games in. I don't see people doing that much these days either, and that kind of makes me sad. So it's not that there isn't good socializing. Now I think Discord has taken up a lot of the room that console gatherings at people's homes used to take up, and ranked matchmaking obviously has mostly replaced the arcade. There's similar modalities, right, of playing these games, but to me, neither of them feel quite as social as the old ways did. And so in a lot of the work we do, we try and bring that back, right? We try and bring back some arcade spirit to the locals that we run, while also creating a nice room for people to, share food and hang out, because that's when people start talking. When people start talking to each other, that's usually where you start to learn the game better from each other and also make friends with each other. But it's hard because that stuff used to be part of the fighting game package. You used to have to do that in order to get better as a player. And now you kind of don't. You can do a lot without ever having to interact with another human being. You can grind ranked a whole lot and study a whole lot of videos and pour over frame data and do all kinds of stuff on your own without having to interact with other people, which to me kind of misses the point of fighting games, which is because to me it's all about the people. The other thing that I really like about those old socialization patterns, like hanging out at people's houses, is people would usually bring a six-pack or some weed or something, and so you start to get a little buzzed, and that's fun too. A lot of the legendary money matches that you've seen footage of, probably pouring over YouTube, came from a bunch of people who got real comfortable because they had been drinking beer since 2 in the afternoon and probably burned a couple joints on top of them. That shit is fun. These games are super fun when you're a little fucked up. And when you're with people who are also fucked up. I don't know if it's a generational thing or what, but it used to be just the expectation that if I went over to a friend's house, even just for fighting games, so just go over to a friend's house, I'm bringing a six-pack, we're gonna drink. And I'm not a big drinker or anything, but I was just expecting it's kind of what you were gonna do. And I noticed that is, it seems to be a custom that is left behind, probably the best for all our health, though I still roll up with a sixer or some weed or something. But that a lot of the kind of deep bonds that you get from fighting games often came from just hanging out at someone's house, sharing drinks and joints and whatever, and having a good time with each other, and then going back to play the game. And when you start to streamline out a lot of the socialization, you miss not just the substance abuse, obviously, you also miss making friends like that, which I think kind of sucks. Which is why we have started hosting events at our garage over in Oakland. If you're really cool, maybe you can come through one of these days. We're sticking with the local crew because we want to give them a nice home. But it's been super fun to start running stuff out of our own space. Obviously, we still run things out of Game Center, and I love Game Center. Caliburst is still there. We'll have one about a week from today, actually. But not a week after this gets posted, so whatever. It'll probably already happen by the time you see this. But there is so much that I've wanted to have my own space to work with, because for me, the value of fighting games are the social connections. It really is the friends that we make along the way. And a large part of what we wanted from the space itself, how we set it up, the kinds of events we want to run, and the kinds of ways that we want people to use the space really is anchored in having kind of a stronger understanding or more opinionated take on how people should interact with each other through fighting games. Because to me, if you didn't get any friends from this, then you completely missed out on the core value that I think this genre of a video game really delivers. So stay tuned for this, obviously, but if you're in the Bay Area, and we will be running, hopefully, weeklies sometime soon. It'll probably be a little bit different than the standard weekly bracket or whatever. I don't really want to run brackets at home, to be honest. But there's a lot of magical stuff that happens when you get fighting game players in the same place and just let them hang out and do their thing. I can think of so many memories from other fighting game tournaments. The 24-hour venue at Frosty's and Combo Breaker was where I learned a lot of Guilty Gear. And that was really where I felt so surprised. I've been playing fighting games for, almost 15 years at that point. And I'd never had someone obviously better than me sit down and kick my ass for such a long time. But multiple people did that for me at Frosty's and Combo Breaker. And that really showed me not only how to play the game, but it showed me that these people care about the game, right? I had been used to playing games where people would kick your ass and then go and find another setup to find stronger opponents. They didn't really care. So I'm hoping that we can bring some of that culture back, learn how to cultivate it more intentionally. I think we've gotten really good with this with the NorCal Guilty Gear Exert scene. And I look forward to doing a lot of stuff like this, because ultimately, I mean, if there's stuff that I wish fighting game players would do, well, we just got to do it, and then I won't have to wish that people do it anymore. But excellent question, and thanks for asking.